Hello, everyone. So, we're in the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. So, welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Shannon Moman. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a senior onboarding specialist here at AllVoices. So, today I'm really excited to welcome our next guest. Her name is Holly Danko. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So, more about Holly Danko. Most recently, as a chief people officer at Unison, Holly led talent acquisition, people operations, learning and development, and facilities. Holly has spent over a decade in specialty finance, working with high net worth individuals and leading high growth companies. And prior to Unison, Holly was an executive vice president at Novation Ventures, where she drove business operations and spearheaded the acquisition and integration of Sound Royalties. She's a respected leader and employee development expert with a record of building strong teams, providing guidance and motivation, and overseeing the delivery of top performance. Holly holds a degree in finance from the University of Maryland and an MBA from Penn State University. So we're really, really happy to have you here, Holly.
Thanks, Shannon. It's nice to be here.
Tell me more about yourself. First of all, how to pronounce your name correctly, your pronouns, and how did you answer this question when you were younger? What do you want to be when you grow up? So I think that's a good way to break the ice.
Sure. Thanks, Shannon. My name is Holly Danko, which you pronounced correctly. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Most recently, I was Chief People Officer of a fintech company called Unison in the San Francisco Bay Area. Right now, I'm taking some time off, but prior to that, I spent about 15 years in specialty finance, mostly for private equity and VC-backed companies on the East Coast. And that's a tricky question of what I wanted to be when I was younger. When I was very, very young, I wanted to be a veterinarian. Like most children, I loved animals. And when I got to about high school, I decided that I wanted to be an accountant. I remember the first time I took an accounting course, and it just seemed like it made so much sense to me. And I truly thought that I was going to be an accountant until I interned at the IRS and very quickly decided that I wanted to major in finance and not accounting. No offense to the IRS, of course.
No offense, IRS, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love that. So, with that said, what is the current conversation happening in the workplace and the people experience space that you're most excited about? And this could be anything. So, what would you say you're most excited about and why?
I am most excited about pay transparency. As I'm sure you know, and a lot of our listeners know, California, amongst many other states, just implemented a pay transparency law. And that basically means that companies of a certain size need to disclose compensation ranges on job postings. There'll be additional reporting and a few other things and obligations that companies are held to. And I'm excited about this because I think it's a really good step in the right direction towards bringing more pay equity to the workplace. But I also want to point out very clearly that I don't think that this does bring complete pay equity. You know, just disclosing pay ranges doesn't actually bring pay equity. People have to understand what the compensation strategy is, why they're being compensated, what they're being compensated for. There's a lot of other factors that go into it, but I'm most excited about pay transparency right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that that's a new initiative that California is putting forward, and hopefully all the rest of the states will follow suit. So
I hope
it's
so.
super exciting. I hope so. Perfect. So, what is the goal of the employee recognition and reward programs?
Simply put, it's to motivate and retain team members. You want to motivate your team to achieve their goals, whether it's short-term goals or long-term goals. And then you want to retain your team members and your institutional knowledge. So you want to make sure that you're regularly and correctly motivating and rewarding your team members for doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And here at All Voices, I could confidently say that when people feel recognized, they feel a lot more comfortable in their workspace. They feel appreciated in their in their workspace, and I can honestly say that those types of things are really really key into creating a healthy, psychologically safe work environment. So, uh, awesome, love that.
Absolutely.
Now, in terms of motivation, this is one of my favorite subjects, but how do you navigate motivating different types of employees? So we just talked about employee recognition and rewards, but as we know, everybody is motivated by totally different things. So how would you say that you navigate different types of employees or those who have different, let's say, work styles?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head that everyone is motivated by different things. And I think we all, of course, know that as human beings. But I think sometimes when you're a manager, you forget that. So starting at the top tier, it's up to a company, it's up to a people team to really provide managers with the tools and different tools for motivation and rewards. Some people are motivated by public praise, others are motivated by giving additional work or bigger projects. Some people want money or compensation or experiences. So it's up to the company to provide different options for managers. But then bringing it down to another level, it's up to the managers to be knowledgeable on what motivates each one of their team members. And truly, you could usually, figure that out by just interacting with your team and, having conversations. But I think it's also okay to just ask people, what motivates you? What makes you come to work?
Yeah,
What
simply.
excites you? Yes, I think, having that conversation and just being honest about it and caring enough to use the right tool or the right reward for the right person helps you motivate different people successfully.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's about really being invested in your employees and taking the time to learn your employees and what keeps them going, what makes them tick. So, I absolutely love that. Taking the time to learn everyone's different motivation styles can be extremely rewarding for both the employee, and the company.
Yeah, and I think
Awesome.
it's also important sometimes to even go outside of a comfort zone. For example, there may be an employee who doesn't like public praise, right? A lot of people, don't want to be publicly praised, but every now and then, I think it's actually good, again, to go outside of someone's comfort zone to praise them publicly or do a different type of reward. So I just want to make sure, you're not only sticking to one reward, but you are using a variety of them.
For sure. And as a manager, that's kind of taking you out of your comfort zone, right? So taking you out of your comfort zone and having, putting yourself out there, it's simply a conversation, right? It's simply asking the right questions and putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I want to learn you. I want to understand what motivates you as an employee. So yeah, absolutely. Love that. And with that said, what would you say is the difference between an instantaneous short-term reward and an investment in long-term recognition? I mean, both are necessary, obviously, but which one would you say is better?
Yeah, both are absolutely necessary. And I think they actually have two completely different purposes. I think a short-term reward, sometimes you hear called spot bonus or spot reward, is really for motivation. So that is when someone hits a sales goal or finishes a project early. That's when you could give public praise, or you could give money, or you could give some kind of spot bonus of, hey, you did a great job. I want to tell you this immediately and motivate you to keep doing the same exact thing. Longer term rewards, I think that's more about retention. So there's a lot of different, formats that could come in. It could come in promotion, merit increase, stock grant or equity. It could come in the form of employee of the year. There's a million different ways to do this, but that's more about retaining a team member and retaining that institutional knowledge. And I think that that's usually a bigger and more meaty award than a spot bonus or short-term reward, but you have to use a combination of both to make sure that you're motivating and retaining your team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're both 100% necessary. But I agree with you. You know, the most important thing for us to do is look at the bigger picture and how we can make this person motivated long term, and keep them around. So yeah, absolutely agree. And with that said, what strategies have you employed to manage employees with a variety of different backgrounds and experiences?
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, the first thing you need to do is understand the employee and have a relationship with the employee and know what truly motivates that individual. So that's always step one. And then step two is, I think, using the tools and resources that are either given to you or, go outside them a little bit to make sure that you're motivating in the right way. So I personally really like embracing technology for motivation and rewards. There's a ton of great platforms and tools out there. Some are experience-based, where you can give people surfing lessons or a cooking class. Something that's really memorable and not necessarily like a piece of tangible swag, which honestly I don't think is a way to motivate or retain team members anymore. I feel like that's that's
Yeah,
tenured. Like everyone does it; it's table stakes. So, you
yeah.
can do that. There's a lot of great platforms out there that integrate praise with Slack or with email or integrate it with your merit increase and promotion cycle so you could retain that information. So I think embracing technology is really good. And then also just having a variety of different rewards, because as we said probably 3 or 4 times, not everyone is motivated by the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea of, embracing technology and also giving people things, rewards, meeting them where they are. Like the surfing lessons was a really cool idea actually to me because when we think about rewards normally, we kind of think about something generic, like you said, swag or something like that. But if you can meet someone where they are and really show your employees that you are invested in who they are and what their interests are. I mean, of course, we always want to feel like a team at our companies, but we are individuals, and we all do have different interests, and we all have different lanes and things that motivate us, like we said earlier. So it's really nice to be able to kind of go outside the box, get creative, and meet people where they are when it comes to rewards. So
Absolutely.
awesome, love that.
Yeah, and as a chief people officer, I'm always looking to get like more bang out of my buck and out of my investment. So like, just using the surfing lesson as an example, like imagine if,
Yeah,
an employee of the month won, a surfing lesson or a cooking class, or again, whatever experience you want. And then you have pictures and you can post it in Slack and everyone sees, this employee of the month, got to do this. It's just a way to
yeah.
really, build engagement amongst your community, amongst your team members, and also create like a really amazing and memorable experience.
Absolutely. Love that idea. That sounds awesome. I can only imagine if, I had a reward that was tailored specifically to me as a person. It allows that person, like you said, if you were to share it, that moment to shine, that moment to share what their interests are. So um, love that. Awesome. So with that said, what techniques have you used to empower employees on your team? Um, Specifically, like you just said, asynchronous and remote first and or in a hybrid environment. I think the surfing lessons was a good example, but what are some other ways that you can empower people who could be all over the place at the company?
Yeah, the biggest strategy that I personally use is creating space for mistakes. And I say that in the sense of, we're all human, we all make mistakes. But when you get to a workplace, I feel like people are more afraid of making mistakes, right? You may get in trouble, you could even lose your job. And personally, I like to empower my team members to understand and admit that we all make mistakes. And I think if you create, a room for a margin of error, I don't want mistakes all the time, but just knowing that like it's okay if something doesn't go as planned every now and then. I think your team members move faster. I think they take bigger risks. I think they're more innovative. So I love just creating that safe space, empowering my team members, to take some risks that maybe they wouldn't normally do. And that's when I found we've achieved the most innovation. We've achieved our goals the fastest. And honestly, you just create a better workspace. You create a safer emotional space to come to work and to engage and to interact with one another.
Yeah, I absolutely love the word or the phrase safe space. I think that's something that we want to hear a lot more often, especially as we said, when you're working in a remote environment, it's very, very easy for people to make those mistakes. So yeah, absolutely. And that goes for everyone, right? I think that goes for the entire company, giving everybody grace and room to make mistakes. So, with that said, what are some common mistakes that you see companies making in their people strategy specifically?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that I see is leaving the people strategy solely up to the people team or the HR team. And I say that in the sense, of course, it's people's responsibility to establish it and to execute on it, but they should not be executing on it solely. And I say that because everything that the people team does, it touches the entire company. It touches leaders, managers, individual contributors, and it should be up to the rest of the company to distill that strategy, throughout different layers. And it could be something like motivation and rewards we've talked a lot about today, where it can't be up to the people team to sit here and say, you've done a great job, you get a spot bonus, you've done this, you get a promotion. Companies are too big to do that. So it's up to the leaders and it's up to the managers to really execute on that strategy, but it's up to the people team to train and to empower those team members to do it. So I think, the people strategy should be, of course, developed by the people team amongst others, but it should be executed by the entire company.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the people strategy is a responsibility of everyone. So yeah, absolutely. And how would you approach helping other team members proactively identify if they are heading toward burnout with your experience? Um, I know that that's one that we're hearing a lot lately, especially working in remote environments. Um, People are feeling, in many cases, feeling burnt out. So, what would you say your approach would be to helping, team members proactively identify if they're heading in that direction?
Yeah, admittedly, it's one of the things I personally need to work on and I continue to try to work on. But I think it's up to the manager really to embody the culture that they want on their team. And I say that in the sense of, if I don't take vacation, my team's probably not going to take vacation. If I'm the one who's sending emails at 11 o'clock at night, I promise you there's going to be some team members who feel the need to respond at 11:30 at night. So I think it's up to the manager to embody the characteristics that they want, take PTO, work somewhat normal hours. I also am going back to that safe space part of this conversation, where it's up to a manager to create a safe space where you could have conversations about burnout. Burnout's not a bad thing if you catch it early, right? If it's too late, you have employees quitting and leaving jobs and you have turnover. But if you catch it early, there's a lot of tools and there's a lot of strategies to help manage it. So I think creating that safe space for conversation and admitting, like, headed towards burnout, or asking, hey, how are you feeling? It's a very simple, question, but how are you feeling today can help prevent burnout. And again, give room for conversation around it.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of goes back to what we said earlier about putting yourself out there, creating a safe space for your employees, and taking an active interest in them, right? So, if your employees are knowing that they feel heard and they feel safe coming to you, it's going to be a lot easier to be able to identify when that burnout is happening. And I love what you said, embody what you want to see in your employees. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that part because I really, really agree with that example of making sure that you take the time for yourself and lead by example and show employees that they need to do the same thing in order to achieve all of our goals. So love that. Awesome. And my final question would be, if is there anything else that you would like to share that I didn't ask, or maybe one or two key insights that you hope listeners bring with them after listening to our podcast today?
I think the biggest key takeaway to our conversation today is hopefully people walk away hearing that a reward strategy is not one size fits all. And, there's different roles and responsibilities inside of this. As I mentioned, it's up to the company to provide many different tools to help managers and leaders motivate and retain their team. But it's up to the managers and to the leaders to find out what works best for each team member and get creative. Sometimes companies have limited resources too. I want to, be cognizant of that. And, just because you may not have the budget for, for an experience or for promotion, there's things that you can do as a manager to help your team feel recognized and feel like their contributions matter. And sometimes it's just taking the time to have a conversation saying, thank you, I saw this, I acknowledge you did an amazing job. And it's hard to sometimes pull away and to do that. But if you do it, I promise you it's going to pay off in leaps and bounds in the future. So hopefully everyone will walk away with one way that they could, motivate and retain a team member in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Holly. And thanks again for being on Reimagining Company Culture today. As a reminder to all the folks who are listening, at AllVoices, we really believe that employee feedback is a requirement for the company to succeed overall. But thanks so much for your time and have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, Shannon.